and again on my 37th mission in June. My first shoot down came when I encountered an enemy fighter at full quote 190 over the front line. He shot the tail off my airplane, forcing me to bail out. Although my airplane crashed behind German lines, I was fortunate to land in friendly territory where Polish troops rescued me. After a brief time in the hospital, I was back flying again. My second shoot down came on a low-level mission when I encountered enemy ground fire. With one engine shot out and the other on fire, I was forced to ditch the aircraft in the sea. When I floated ashore in my life jacket some more like 10 hours later, I was approximately 100 miles behind German lines. For the next 5 days, the Italian partisan fighters helped me evade German patrols until the American 5th Army captured the territory and I hitchhiked back to my squadron. After another week of R&R, I was back flying again. I flew another 26 missions, but unfortunately I crashed again. I had an engine try to quit on takeoff. Our group commanding officer commented that I was not credited with destroying 3 American airplanes and only needed 2 more to become a German ace. So he said he wasn't about to let this happen in his outfit, and he sent me home. Back in the States, I served as a flight instructor until the war in Europe ended on DE Day, May the 8th, 1945, the same day that I turned 22. In 1976, I returned to Italy with my wife and daughter, where we were able to locate a number of the partisan fighters who would help me avoid capture by German troops. It was only then that I learned that because of their refusal to turn me over to the enemy, German troops had machine gunned to death 68 men, women, and children from the small village of Guadalajara in reprisal. 2 years ago, we returned, now this was written in 2001, 2 years ago, we returned to Italy to attempt to locate the airplane that I ditched in 1944. Although our sponsor dove unsuccessfully on the submerged wreck, we are confident that it is my airplane because it is exactly where I remembered ditching it. Since then, we have been trying unsuccessfully to raise the necessary funding to return to Italy, recover the aircraft, and bring it to this country for restoration. During this recent trip to Italy, we again visited the village of Guadalajara and the beautiful memorial where the murdered villagers are buried. Now, from here, I think, it's kind of foolish me trying to tell a lot of you folks about airplanes, but maybe I can tell you something that we did in photorecon that you didn't know. I'm going to talk about photorecon probably half the session. I have then I have details on my personal experiences. If anything I say you don't agree with, and you know more about it than I am, don't hesitate to speak up. I can still learn. But we have some slides that I had made and will be useful in describing some of the details and some of our experiences. First of all, photorecon. The purpose of photorecon is to secure frequent and accurate surveillance of the enemy. Because if you know more about what he's doing than he thinks you do, you have an edge on him, and it probably will help you defeat your enemy. So our job was to furnish this surveillance for the armies in Italy. Now, the arrangement in Italy had the English 8th Army under General Alexander on the east coast going up through Italy, through the peninsula. The 5th Army under General Mark Clark, on the west coast, and they were pretty closely coordinated. The NAPRW, the Mediterranean Allied Photo Reconnaissance Group, was a conglomeration of pilots who didn't have any place else to go, like me. Anyhow, they were arranged into two groups, one for the 15th Air Force on the east, the other for the 12th Air Force on the west. We had two squadrons in the 12th that were assigned to Martin Clark on the 12th Air Force. That was the 12th Squadron and the 5th Squadron, and we had one squadron assigned to the 15th Air Force, the 23rd. And they worked in close conjunction with the bombers on the other side. We worked in close conjunction with Mark Clark and did tactical work for his ground forces. He was so impressed and needed our reconnaissance so desperately that he insisted that he have our photos on his desk in the morning at 6 o'clock. And that meant our interpreters and camera crews had to work all night. But we supplied him all the way through. The pilots that we had were a words fail me. Anyhow, well, they came from every place. We had Americans, we had English, we had Canadian, we had Australian, New Zealand, South Africa, three French, three Poles, and they were banded together in groups more or less by themselves, but coordinated all through the MAPRW. The planes that we flew were primarily the P-38 for the American forces because it was ideally suited for it. It had twin engine, it was fast, and it was stable. The British had the Spitfire, some Hurricanes. They had the Mosquito, which was a very good airplane. We used the P-38 to, I think, to its best advantage. Cameras, we had cameras that ranged all the way from the K-12s, K-6, K-12s, K-24s, K-36s, and the numbers designate the focal length between the lens and the film. So a K-6 was 6 inches. It was used for low altitude, for a broad picture of close-up, and was used at low altitude. The K-12 was an intermediate. The K-24 was very popular. It was 24 inches in focal length, and it blended itself very well into the nose section of the plane. The K-36 came along later. The first one, the 36-inch focal length with the magazine was so long that the lens was stuck out through the bottom of the gondola, so it wasn't too well adapted. But the magnification came with the focal length of the camera. The longer the focal length, the more magnification that you got. Now with the K-24s, our photo interpreters, which used the stereoptic effect from the overlap of the film, they were able to, believe it or not, be able to count the number of strands of barbed wire in the barbed wire entanglement. They could tell the caliber of an artillery piece. And they became very adept at identifying any. The only thing that they had problems with was camouflage, but that was something that you couldn't always beat. The film that the cameras used was 180 feet in a magazine of 12-inch wide, high definition, very, very good quality film. The idea behind the arrangement